city of Little Falls was first recognized by Governor Burnett in 1725 as a place of location allotted for the, what do they call them, Palatine Germans, to settle no further west than Little Falls, that was here, as opposed to the Big Falls at Cohoes. Do you know that? How many knew that? Good. Formed as a village not until 1811. The Mohawk Valley was also referred to as the breadbasket of the American Army during the American Revolution. How many of you knew that? You did. George Washington actually set aside this city with its waterways as the first way to transfer grain to Albany. First of its kind in the United States, the waterways that went to Albany that supplied our troops. We became a congregation in 1812. There was a meeting here in this area. 5 people signed the document, and the minutes are here actually from 1812 when we became official Presbyterian Church. Before that, we worshiped in different places. It's called the Concord Society at first, and then the Octagon, where it was a number of people from all kinds of religions gathered together. That works good in theory, but as the different groups grew, each different denomination or each different party had a different theology, and they began to separate. And so the Presbyterians, which were always the largest group, we were founded first in 1812. Hi, Carly. You want something? We had 3 different buildings after we finished at the Octagon Church. And the first building was built was the Brick Church. And it was a beautiful church of its kind, but not all that well built. It's there at Albany and Ann Street. Spires and a clock at the top. But it began falling apart. As a matter of fact, during a session of prayer as to what to do about the building or whether to buy a new building, part of the ceiling fell on the people that were praying. And that was a decision they decided it was time. As a matter of fact, let me have my notes here, I will tell you. One Sunday morning in 1876, after preaching a national centennial sermon, a Mrs. Thomas Birch, in our records, told the Reverend Potts she wished to give $5,000 for the erection of a new church building. $5,000 in 1876, what would that be worth today? Anybody have any idea? Steve? A lot. Thanks, Steve. And the Brick Church was sold to another family in our church, the Burrow family. They bought that, so they got more. Following a 7-week series of mighty prayer in the Brick Church, the plaster did fall, and the people said, it's time to build a new church. Dr. Potts soon held another meeting in the old church parlor, and $20,000 was subscribed by the members for a building campaign, and that was 1878. Now, ground was broken in 1878, and the great stone church was completed in October 1880. Now get this, this Gothic Queen Anne construction was the pride of this city. There's several pictures of it. Covered the entire city block, it seats 700 people. Total cost, $48,558.57. Paid for in cash, of course, even before it was occupied for worship. What we don't know, what you may not know, is that Little Falls was a great pioneering city for business. Some of the major executives of Chrysler, General Motors, and Ford grew up in this city. And this city was a hub of all kinds of industry, huge amount of industry. However, at one time there was 600 members at the turn of the century in this church. 600. And but the church, the big stone church, started to deteriorate, slowly but surely. And of course, up till after the Second World War, the population of Little Falls is going from like 16,000 down to about 5 or 6. And with it, the congregation numbers. Could they afford to upkeep a church seated 700? Could they afford to keep remodeling the church when the steeple started to fall and other things started to happen? And the answer was, of course, no. And they tore it down. I've been told by some of you that some of the members had what we call edifice complex. They were more attached to the church than to the gospel the church was preaching. And so, you know, gee, I was baptized in that church. I was married in that church. My children were born in that church. And so if I can't have that church, I'll leave. And they did lose some members. And it was tough. I wouldn't want to be the minister who's here today who had to deal with that. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all. But in many respects, this church over the years, and I hope you do take the brochure we have and the great writing that Al McDowell did. We were once a very, very pious group of Presbyterians. And we would spend meeting after meeting after meeting over 150 years ago, determining whether somebody should still be a member because they hauled wood on Sunday. And they'd spend a year debating that. And the guy who hauled wood on Sunday did it right out in front so everybody could see. Dared them to kick him out of the church, right? Yeah. Dared him. And of course the church went on and on. Very pious. You had to worship on Sunday morning. It was a sin if you didn't. Forget it, they caught you drinking. However, which is interesting enough, at one time Little Falls had more taverns per population than any other town or city in the country. How many of you knew that? All right. Interesting knowledge that you hold. Judge, did you get that one too? Yes, you did. Okay. All right. But this was a very lumpy church. I don't know how many millionaires that we have in this church. And one that became a millionaire, got broke and became a millionaire several times, is the Becker, which is the funeral home over there. That was his home. Huge place. And in 1992 or 3, I guess it was, I walked into the office, opened up an envelope, and there was a check for $1,080,000.22. Hospital got $1,080,021. So we were first. That was someone elected in 1950. And as you know, we took that money and decided not to use it for the upkeep of the church, but to provide mission projects. And one of the things you can look at downstairs, if you go back down, is the mission board of all the projects we support all over the world. And Randall, you are one. And you were introduced by our previous pastor. And we've been supporting your work, wonderful work, where you are, starting with a few kids in school and a village with no electricity, and now we've got kids in high school and college and coming back. And we're glad to have you every year.